Hello everyone, how's Karen and the kids?
It seems today that all you see is violence.
How's Amanda's new job at Barnes & Noble? I know I've been away for quite some time, did a couple of side things, got a bit busy with school and extracurricular activities, and only had time to watch and morbid amusement as Biden was deemed too mentally incompetent to be tried in court. I missed that Civil War thing that happened, which was a nothing burger, honestly.
You're ugly.
What else did I miss? Oh, the Epstein client list still hasn't been released. And GamerGate 2.0. So, for the uninitiated, allow me to give you some context into the GamerGate saga. But since this isn't the main focus of the video, I'll give you a super quick summary. The feminist frequency wanted forced diversity in games. They also wanted to censor every female game character. Laura Croft, not as curvy as you remember, you can blame the feminist frequency, the one organization that walked so that the newer consultation agencies can run with the grift. Wondering why everyone hated Bayonetta because she was attractive? Blame the feminist frequency. Even though this opinion was later changed and she was deemed to be a quote-unquote queer icon for some reason. But that's a topic for another day. Basically, in the end, the gamers of the first GamerGate lost. Quite obviously, after looking at the modern state of gaming, you can see that.
Bro, here's your soap, right there.
However, the second time around, another company by the name of Sweet Baby Inc. stands where the feminist frequency stood. You can watch tons of videos about how it all got started, but I'm sure you know, but did you know about other companies doing the same things and not getting nearly as much attention? Today we're talking about two of those companies, and then a theory as to why this keeps happening and why it does fundamentally matter. First, let's start with Rocket Ride Games. Rocket Ride Games is a consulting agency similar to Sweet Baby Inc., but a lot more subtle. Specifically, what we want to pay attention to is Project Liftoff, an affirmative action program to, and I quote, create opportunities in the video game industry for BIPOC and underrepresented groups. Using our skills and expertise, we make your games shine on a worldwide stage, end quote. Obviously, one can see the problems with prioritizing color or how marginalized someone is as opposed to how fit they are for the job, but overall, this can be seen as an innocuous attempt to get more inclusiveness in the workplace. But let's take a look at what the founder of this program had to say back in 2021 about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Kirk Scott.
That is, I'll work with a guy like Neil to get Aerial Knight out there, and we go and get his pitch tight. We go and get him the money from the publishers and get his game funded. Right now we're looking at probably 2022. I think we're going to have anywhere from 5 to 8 games that we're focused on in the Liftoff program. Now,
all right, let's have a look at Aerial Knight's portfolio. Oh, it's an anti-racism game. All right, let's check Steam. Oh, it's a game with most of the positive reviews are from people who received the game for free, spent less than 3 hours on it, or both. Anyway, just thought I'd point that out. There was another game in the portfolio, but it seems mostly harmless. But I'll link the website in the description if you guys would like to have a look. All right, let's continue.
That you didn't recognize at your past ventures?
Well, I think, through Liftoff and with Rocket Ride, we really focus on the journey that the developer has in getting these pixels on screen or these polys on screen. So we think it's just as important to tell the story of how you got there and the game that you're making, because a lot of these indie games, there's an undertone. What people don't understand, they're playing these games and really what it is it's the story of, it could be mental illness. It could be you know, just the struggle of a Black developer getting their game made and the story of their family. I think it's just as important to tell that story as it is to get them funding and get that game, you know, launched, right? So it's a lot of it is, you know, these stories that are being told in these indie games are really deep. And I think, you know, people that look like us, we're all playing games. So, and it's not
But it's top
impossible to get out
consumers
there
of
and
it.
get your game made. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, you know, there shouldn't be any secrets. If there's Black game developers out there making games, let's get them in the forefront and let's have our people playing these games and, you know, finding out that it's really not a magic trick to get your game published and get on screen. You just need some support and you need some help. And we're here to do that.
Yep. Awesome.
Now you have anything to add?
Neil and I
'Cause
have had
you're
this
the dev
conversation.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like me and
Yeah,
Kurt, we didn't had a couple long conversations over Zoom about this very thing. It's really just important not only for developers to kind of support each other, which is like one of my main focuses. Is like given that, you know, I feel like every year there's one or two people get the juice, you know, the Black person in the game industry for that year. But it's that person's responsibility to kind of make sure that they highlight other people who don't necessarily get that shine, as well as the game industry for kind of fixing that problem of like only like kind of having the attention.
So I think you guys get the basic idea, but again, I'll have the full interview in the description. Essentially, Mr. Scott is trying to put more emphasis on race, and he somehow has the resources of the entirety of the company for his one program. But how does that reflect the gaming experience? Well, they've been working on Netflix games and are partnered with Roblox and Netflix in general. Again, to reiterate, they have ties to Roblox, a children's game.
We're done.
Look at the top of his head.
And we have some obscure projects mixed in with the mainstream stuff because their supposed specialty is indie. The grifters are now trying to infiltrate the indie game scene, guys. Nothing is sacred. They didn't stop at the AAA titles. They're coming to bring quote-unquote anti-racism everywhere, which is not to be confused with not being racist. It just means being racist, but to these groups of people where it's safe to be racist to. It's me, the new editor. Yeah, so the person that was supposed to be editing this was too busy with school. And I would be showing my face, except I have hives. I don't know why. So enjoy this. Enjoy this for a few seconds. Because after this it's over, I'm just gonna back to the PNG. Alright, now that we have liftoff out of the way, let's look at an even more extreme example of these sweet baby ink relatives. GaymerX. No, I'm not joking. It is really spelt like that. GaymerX was founded by Matt Kahn, some guy that was involved with Cyberpunk 2077, and he's just a propaganda creator, honestly. GaymerX likes to talk specifically to, and I quote, pride youths pretty often. Matt must be a pretty friendly guy, you know? I bet he's such a stand-up guy with no allegations or scandals in his name or anything. Anyways, a little more about GaymerX. Basically, homosexuals from around the world gather in a convention and hold an indoor pride parade. And we all know what happens in those. Of course, on top of this, they do some good old-fashioned consulting just like Sweet Baby Inc. On their website, you can find their, and I quote, services, which include lecturing you about gayness for 60 minutes, lecture you about pronouns for 90 minutes while doing activities corresponding with the lecture, and a 90-minute lecture on praising and worshipping people that belong to the LGBTQ, and so on and so forth. But what I found the most disturbing was the letter addressed to, and I quote, Texan LGBTQ youths, which is ridiculous, honestly, because they're whining about Abbott banning medical operations on minors, which allegedly wasn't happening to begin with. Guess where they have influence, guys? Plenty of AAA titles, even Dead by Daylight. It's no coincidence that the first gay character being introduced in the game also gets introduced in the same year that Dead by Daylight partners with GaymerX. Since then, they've been adding more and more sexually ambiguous people and flooding your charms with pride flags. After listening to all of this, there are probably many of you still thinking to yourselves, well, obviously it's what the people want. They have to see some sort of monetary benefit. Otherwise, you can't expect me to believe they'd purposefully kill their business. And That's a pretty reasonable thought. And you're right, sort of. Although there isn't an obvious gain to doing what the majority of the consumers don't want, there's something many people don't often consider: ESG score. What is an ESG score? I hear you ask. Well, if you haven't heard about it yet, somehow, because you were living under a rock, I suppose I can tell you. ESG stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance score. Every business gets a combined score for each of the three categories based on how much they impact each of them. Although it isn't the intent of everyone that pushes these initiatives, the ones greenlighting such initiatives are in it for the ESG scores. What kind of power does this sort of thing have? Why are companies like Sweet Baby Inc., GaymerX, etc. bending to the will of these scores? Why do I need to hear about a non-binary raider in a Fallout game that coincidentally doesn't let you kill any of the NPCs or say mean things about anyone? Well, the answer is simple: money, and lots of it. The World Economic Forum, an organization dedicated to globalism and a great reset, where you will own nothing and be happy, is a huge proponent of ESG scores and incentivizes socio-political activism that you see with the affirmative action practices and questionable marketing strategies. This makes the solution to this problem pretty simple, honestly. We just keep boycotting products. The Anheuser-Busch boycott did so well, until Trump killed it because he had investments there. The Target boycott was successful, but to a lesser extent, and the Doritos boycott is starting to kick off. All we need to do is show these companies that the money lost from their ESG pandering is too significant to justify the benefit gained from it. This means not playing games that involve these consulting agencies like Sweet Baby Inc., although I don't think you'd want to play any of those anyway, considering what their portfolio is looking like. Now that we've gone over why it's happening, I suppose we should discuss why it's important to begin with. I think it's important that the right wing does engage with culture, unlike a certain someone, because ignoring things that have an insane amount of influence within our society, especially younger people, is a very, very bad idea. Since over 50% of you watching my content currently are over the age of 25, or you lied about your age, oh well. Let's take you back to 2009. Modern Warfare 2 just released. You've beaten it 3 times already. You're obsessed with the plot, the intricate planning of Makarov, the no Russian dilemma, all of it. But what do you think about when you play these missions? Well, more importantly, what aren't you thinking about? And the answer to this should hopefully be politics. Forced diversity within video games often results in a jarring experience for players. When diversity feels artificial or forced, it destroys the immersion of the story. And I'd argue that it can do the opposite effect of what was intended. Allow me to ask you something else. Did you care when Harvey Dent was race swapped back in 1989? No, I don't think anybody did. Did you care that The Wiz was an all-black casting of The Wizard of Oz? No, you didn't care. But the problem with forcing this diversity is that you aren't really getting anything diverse. Everything is sterilized and pushed into stereotypes, but an even bigger issue is that there is no diversity of ideas. We aren't introduced to any uniqueness with forced inclusion. They are all the same people with different races and sexualities with nothing interesting going on. And when someone sees a pattern with the media that they dislike and the people in them, they're going to start losing the will to give it a chance. This is where the true problem lies. A self-fulfilling prophecy will come true in the future if this continues to happen. There will be people that will eventually start not watching movies or playing games simply because someone with more melanin than them are the protagonists. Alright guys, that's about it for today's video. Thank you very much, Wanton the Stormtrooper, for providing many of the screenshots you see throughout the video, and for drawing my attention to these companies in the first place. A huge thank you to King G, he edited today's video, and lastly, thank you all for listening, and I hope you all have a great day. Goodbye, everyone.